Hello everyone, welcome to the Ichimoku.co chart of the day. To the Nasdaq 100, and here we've seen a continuation of the trend to the upside today. The previous candle changed the trend with a higher high and a higher low, and today's candle has also done so, just taking out the previous high and forming a higher high and a higher low. So we have an uptrend in place. Problem here, however, is that we haven't seen any strong follow through to the upside on both of these candles. We have largish shadows on the top of both, and that reflects the buyers losing commitment up through these levels, and the sellers coming into the market and trading the market back down to lower levels. For today, we have seen a white body candle form, and that's as opposed to a fairly small bodied candle of the previous day. So net momentum is favouring the buyers here. That's the distance between the open and the close, so perhaps a build of momentum. So an opportunity here for the buyers to trade to the upside. But the buyers have failed to close with control, and it does suggest that even though we have a technical uptrend in place, it's certainly not strong. Importantly, however, we're not seeing any strength from the sellers. So with the market closing around that midpoint level, it suggests that neither side has control of the market. So it suggests that there is some indecision in terms of that control. And because this market is technically in an uptrend, it has greater ramifications for the uptrend than any selling. Importantly today, we have seen the market finding support down around the bottom of this window that was open. Now, we have been trading down through the window. It does negate the strength of the window, but I like to see markets closing through windows, and the window is just a gap, really, and they do tend, in terms of Japanese candlesticks, to be areas of important support or resistance, and we are seeing this here. But what I like to see is a close through there to really negate them, and we haven't seen that yet. So the window is still in play and is quite significant. The bottom of the window is down around the 53.46 level, and just within the window we also have the Tenkan-sen indicator, and once again the Tenkan-sen has been holding a strong support. So it has been some time since we've seen this market, the Nasdaq 100, closing down through that Tenkan-sen. We have seen on multiple occasions how it has acted as support, and it continues to do so. If we do see a close down below there, it could herald the start of an important change of sentiment, and we could see a significant retracement, although we do need to monitor other areas on the way down if we do see a retracement, and one will be the previous window that was opened up a few weeks ago, which extends down to about the 53.24 level. So in terms of Ichimoku, we still do have a bull market in the longer term time frame, trading well up above the cloud, still looking a little overextended in depth away from the cloud. Significantly, as we move into the early part of next week, that cloud starts to move higher, so it will weaken the urgency for the market to attempt to retrace, and we certainly aren't seeing any urgency now. So once we get into probably around the middle of next week, there won't be any perhaps any power behind any retracement if we do see it. In terms of the medium-term time frame, we are trading above the Kijun-sen pink line here, still looking a little overextended, but we're not seeing any strength from the sellers in an attempt to find equilibrium in that medium-term time frame, and just hovering around that Tenkan-sen, suggesting that we still have just a fairly weak bull market in the short-term time frame, and weak to neutral by closing very close to that Tenkan-sen indicator. And the bullish activity that we're seeing in those longer time frames is supported by the Chikou span being above the corresponding price action. Now, just looking to our Heikin-Ashi candles here on the Nasdaq 100, and our Heikin-Ashi candles are signaling still quite some indecision in the market. If we look here previously, you had a series of largish white body candles, no shadow on the bottom, highlighting strength. And then as we attempted to trade to higher levels through this 5400 level, good solid buying coming in, a large white body candle becoming very smaller, suggesting that the buyers weren't as strong as they were previously. but we haven't seen any strength from the sellers in terms of Heikin Asia. We've seen a lot of these small bodied candles, some black body candles, yes, so we have had a shift away from the buyers to the sellers, but the shift hasn't been strong. We have a shadow on either end of these bodies, and now just a slight shift to a small white body candle, so perhaps a shift back in net momentum to their buyers, although it's certainly not strong and not significant. So what we're not seeing is any strength behind any attempted retracement that we've seen here in terms of the selling price action. And just looking to our bands here with the Nasdaq 100 and continuing to trade within the bands here. We had been trading above the band, suggesting that there was a strong bullish tone to the uptrend that the market was in. Our trend performance came off, and it is just starting to look a little bit weak by trading down through that lower band in terms of trend performance. But trading within the bands has seen an end to that strong performance, and importantly the upper band holding as resistance. So just monitoring very carefully how we behave over the next few days. If we do trade to the upside through those bands in a bullish manner, we could have a resumption of that strong performance, but we could see some strong rejection to the downside and attempt to mean revert back down to the middle of the bands, which trades at roughly at about the 53.18 to 15 level. Now, very often with the bands, we see the start of a transition from an uptrending phase into a downtrending phase in this manner, where we have the market trading outside of the bands with some strength, then starting to trade within the bands, the upper band holding as resistance, then the market testing down to around the middle of the bands, it perhaps holding a support, test back up to the upper band, hold as resistance, and then a test down to the bottom, hold as support there, test back to the middle, resistance, and then a test through the lower band. So this could be the start of a downtrend in that medium-term time frame, but certainly a long way away from that. This setup has a long way to play out before that occurs, but it is significant here that that upper band is holding as resistance, and we no longer have that strength of the buyers in the market in that medium-term time frame. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't have a breakout to the upside. What we do is react to this market, and we'll certainly be watching for a reaction over the next few days to that upper band, and whether we do trade above there or whether we do retrace back to the middle of the bands to find equilibrium. And just looking at a longer term perspective here with the Nasdaq 100, and here we see with the bottom left hand corner the Ichimoku charts on the weekly charts, and still continue to trade well above each of the Ichimoku indicators, supported by the Chica span, looking very overextended in depth away from the Ichimoku cloud and the Kijun-sen. So a pullback here would be quite healthy. And on the monthly chart, still looking very, very strong. Depth away from the cloud is significant. It is overbought, and retracement back towards the to the Tenkan-sen, which is at 4887. Wouldn't surprise, and we will be looking for very strong support to come in there. And importantly, our benchmark Kijun-sen 4592. That's our benchmark for any potential primary bear. It is still a long way away, so we're certainly not in any danger of any primary bear market beginning here in the Nasdaq 100 at the moment. If we look at our bands here on the weekly and the monthly charts, trading above each of those bands, suggesting that there certainly is a strong bullish tone in the medium-term timeframes on both those charts. Looking at the weekly chart here, the bands are quite wide, and it does suggest that the market is looking a little overdone. It wouldn't surprise to see a retracement back towards the top of the bands at 52.37, and if we do see a retracement, looking to strong support to come in around that area.